This is the Bite Back Tour in the city of Monte. We are just getting everything started. We have our streaming services up. So be sure to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And I will go ahead and get us started right about now. Yeah, it's been a little while since we streamed. So if you have any questions for myself or just for any of us, please enter it into the chat box, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, and I will be sure to monitor it and respond as we go. So let's go ahead and begin. We are in this beautiful city of El Monte. We've actually done a lot of work in the city, and we definitely miss all the in-person action there. I definitely remember the times we would go out to events at your parks and meet with all of you, all the residents, and also the city officials. But I'm glad we're able to bring this to a virtual platform where we can talk more about mosquitoes in a more comfortable, casual way. So let's talk a little bit about mosquitoes, obviously, but also more specifically how it impacts El Monte. And the one thing that comes to a lot of people's minds, at least in vector control, is when El Monte, unfortunately, has a claim to fame of being the first city in Southern California to have these invasive Aedes mosquitoes. Now, when I say Aedes mosquitoes, I'm not talking about the decade Aedes. I'm talking about the type or group of mosquitoes called Aedes, Aedes. And most of you who are watching may not know them as Aedes. You might call them something like ankle biters or zebra mosquitoes, black and white mosquitoes. The one key the characteristic that you may know them as is their black and white striping. Ali right there just shared an image of what Aedes mosquitoes may look like. So they're very distinct. Underneath a microscope, they're actually pretty neat to look at, but when they're actually biting you, it's not so fun. So if you're just joining us, this is the Bite Back Tour in El Monte. I will go ahead and do a quick round for folks to introduce themselves. My name is Levy Sun, Public Information Officer. Ali, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ali. I'm the Outreach Assistant.
And then we got Christian.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Education Specialist.
And Hendrix.
Hi, I'm your Protector of Vectors, Hendrix Benga, Specialist 2.
Ooh, I like
Mountain
that.
View Vikings. Let's go Mountain View Vikings. High school graduate from '93.
Awesome. Thank you, Hendrix. And then Jung.
Hi, I'm Jung. I'm a vector control technician.
All right, Jung, I see you're in the field right now. Is that a park you're at?
No, I'm actually next to the El Monte Historical Museum. It's one of our trapping sites.
Oh, very cool. We'll go ahead and actually get to the trapping in a second. And Hendrix, are you in the field somewhere?
Yeah, I'm on Peck and Laura Souza and El Monte.
All right, so it looks like we got a team in El Monte today. Very cool. And now we're out there not only, of course, to educate all of you, but to fight against the mosquitoes, more specifically the Aedes mosquitoes that are in El Monte and throughout Southern California. Now, why are we controlling for these mosquitoes? What makes these things such a big deal? Yes, they can leave a pretty embarrassing itchy welt on your skin or a couple welts on your skin, but there's some public health implications or impacts that they may have on you and your family. And for those of you who may recall, Zika virus or Zika outbreak in the United States was a very big deal back in 2016. And these specific mosquitoes can actually spread Zika virus along with dengue fever, chikungunya, and they luckily do not spread any viruses right now. We have no confirmation of an outbreak. But this is paused here. We just are joined by our trustee on our board, Trustee Jerry Velasco. He's a representative that represents the city of El Monte. Good morning, Trustee Velasco. How are you?
Fine. Good morning. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for joining us today.
Right. No, that's my pleasure. I'm going to be brief because I'm at a funeral. And so I just wanted to log on, and I wanted to say hello again for the people that are watching, that are hearing it. My name is Jerry Velasco, and I'm a former councilman for the city of El Monte. I'm a trustee for the mosquito abatement, and I've been on the board already for probably about 5 years. And I just want to remind people that, especially in El Monte and other cities, like ours, that have big properties, that we have to be very careful with the mosquitoes, and especially during the season that they come out. And it's very dangerous because we have a lot of children and we have a lot of seniors, and they live in big properties. So I ask everyone, and that's what I try to do, try to help my neighbors, especially when I see that they're seniors that don't get to their backyards, to go out and help them, because it's very, very important. Because they could get bitten, and they sometimes they're by themselves, and check up on them. But make sure that you throw away that water that's there that you may have or that you might see around, and tell your neighbors. You guys are basically our eyes and ears for the organization, because sometimes the levy and all his staff, they can't do it all, so we need to help them. So whatever I can do, I'm there to help, and please count on me with my support, and hopefully we could count with everybody's support. And we're doing much, much better than we were 10 years ago and 15 years ago, but we got to keep up the work, especially with those stagnant waters that you may see out there that are not being thrown away. And check also the water that sometimes you also have water for the birds. Check that water daily and change it, because we love our animals, we love our birds, and we want to feed them. But sometimes, that water could be sitting there for a week or so, and that's when it gets dangerous also. So I just wanted to say hello and thank you for doing this, Levy, and I'm here to help.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trustee Velasco. It really is important that everyone do their part. In fact, I like that you mentioned things were a lot worse 10, 15 years ago. Things have been improving. More people are more aware of mosquito issues. In fact, I'm really proud to say that we had no human deaths from West Nile virus in 2020. Even though we were in the pandemic,
Right.
We did the impossible during an impossible time. So thank you to all of the residents in El Monte for doing your part. We're really proud of you, and we're really proud to have our trustee Jerry Velasco on our board, who also happens to serve on a public information committee. And if there's anyone else that could serve on there as our chair, it's definitely our trustee Velasco. And I understand you're at a funeral, so if you do need to leave at any time, feel free to do so. This is a very casual environment, so just let us know, and then we'll let you go.
Yes, and I just want to say also, make sure that you wear your repellents. I was just in another city, and surprisingly, like Palm Springs, and they were all getting bitten, and I felt bad for them because they were not, maybe they were not taking the precautions that we're taking. So Levy and the mosquito abatement here, I thank you for bringing this to our attention and making us aware of what we need to wear, what we need to do, what we need to put on. And again, help your neighbors, especially those seniors that are out there. They live in big properties, and sometimes they don't check their own backyards because they can't. Check it out for them. Let them know, can they do a walk with them? So please help our seniors and help our neighbors. So I am going to leave, Levy. I just
Okay.
want to say hello because I need to get back to the funeral. And but thank you again for what you do.
Thank you so much for joining us, Trustee Velasco. Thank you for your time, and the City of El Monte residents really appreciate what you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
And if you're all just joining us, this is the Bite Back Tour in the City of El Monte. I'm joined, my name is Levy's son. I'm joined by Ali, Christian, Hendricks, and Jung. And then just right now, our trustee from the board of our board, Trustee Jerry Velasco, just joined us. He was gracious enough to give us some airtime since he is at a funeral, unfortunately. But yeah, all his words ring true. Really proud to have him on our board. And we were just also talking about Aedes mosquitoes, these black and white mosquitoes that really bite us up left and right. And they can unfortunately spread some diseases like Zika, yellow fever. So we don't want to see that happen here in El Monte. So for everyone else that are on the line with me, feel free to just jump in, interrupt, throw in your 2 cents regarding Aedes mosquitoes. I do have one story regarding Aedes that just my first interaction with them at a point where I thought, this is a problem. And I remember getting a call from a school, an elementary school, and kids getting bit up. And at the time, I knew about Aedes mosquitoes being out of school, but I wasn't, or how they can be pervasive, but I wasn't sure how bad it could be. Some of us that reported to the school to work with the school staff thought they were possibly fleas or something else. When we got to the school, no joke, we went through the doors of the hallway, went into one classroom, and within 30 seconds, we saw 3 or 4 adult Aedes mosquitoes flying around in that classroom. And there were kids packed in this room at different stations, and they were getting bit up. So we eventually found out that a lot of the sources came from like plant saucers right outside the school steps, along with some underground utility vaults that were holding a lot of water. But I'll throw it out to anyone else. What was your first memory, fond or not, regarding Aedes mosquitoes? Go ahead, Hendrix.
Well, just recently I was in a different city, and it's a new site for me. And I was walking up to the drain. It was actually an electrical box. I didn't see any water in there, but as I was standing there within, I want to say 40 seconds to a minute, I had about 15 Aedes flying out of there. I don't know how much water was in there, but I was not able to see. But that just goes to show you, just because you don't see the water, there might be an item down there, or something that is holding water and you can't see it, but the mosquitoes are definitely there.
That's a good point. Some of the hidden water sources there.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out, for me, I was really shocked to get bit up indoors. My first experience with Aedes was actually when I was salsa dancing indoors in a club, and back when we could do that. And unfortunately, I wasn't wearing repellent because I thought I was going to be indoors, completely thought I was safe, but they must have got me from the parking lot to the doors. So it was not the best part of my night, unfortunately.
One of my memorable experiences with Aedes was when we were having a family party, and this was, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, before I really knew too much about mosquitoes. And so all of the family were out and we were enjoying our time, but we started to notice one corner of the party just kept getting bit, and they were getting bit, and everyone wanted to move and not sit there. And then so later on, now that I know more about mosquitoes, I went back to that house and I was investigating, and we found out that area has like a sprinkler that was shooting right into a really nice lush bush. And so it was just super humid down there, super like if I was a mosquito, that's where I would want to live. So I think there was probably a bunch of mosquitoes just resting there, and as soon as the party came, it was lunchtime.
So
Yeah.
you guys brought the buffet.
We brought the buffet. Yes.
Yeah, and I have heard so many other residents with countless stories. Some more heartbreaking ones, seeing kids with their parents, and the parents are showing off the kids' legs and arms, and they're just chewed up left and right. So we'll go ahead and in a bit talk more about what residents can do against these Aedes mosquitoes. If you are just joining us, this is a bite back tour in the city of El Monte. We were just talking about invasive Aedes mosquitoes, or also known as ankle biters, black and white mosquitoes. All you know about them is that they bite very aggressively during the day, and they can potentially transmit or spread diseases like Zika or dengue. And we just also had our trustee on with us, Trustee Jerry Velasco, gave some really good insight on what you can do. So actually, Hendrix, you touched on this about the water sources. So let's talk a little bit about mosquito life cycle, because a lot of people know mosquitoes based on the adult stage. They're flying around, they're bugging you, but let's talk about where they may come from. So let's dial back to the adult stage and ask the question we get asked often. Why do mosquitoes bite us? Anyone want to take a shot at answering that one? Come on, don't be shy.
Well,
I find my unmute button.
Oh, okay, Ellie.
I'm sorry. No, mosquitoes bite us because they're attracted to our CO2, our breath, what we breathe out, the warmth of our bodies, and we're the perfect host for these blood meals that they're craving. And they
Right, and
Yeah, I would say the females are the only ones who bite us, and they use the protein in our blood to make the eggs. So I'm just screen sharing this perfect little life cycle here. And so you can see, speaking of 80s are the little individual egg rafts. They're laying above under the word rafts. And then a different type of mosquito, one that's more native to California, would lay it in an egg raft, for example. But we'll get to that later.
Right, and that's how these Aedes mosquitoes spread pretty quickly. They lay individual eggs that they stick on the sides of containers like a saucer or a plant stalk. So if you're rooting roses, if you're rooting any kind of plant that looks like a lucky bamboo that's in the stagnant water, that's perfect for these Aedes mosquitoes to stick their eggs on after they bite you and use your blood. Then from there, they develop and hatch out into the water as larvae, and they swim around. And they grow into pupa, which look like little shrimp-like creatures. And oh, there we go. Allie is currently sharing actual footage of mosquito larvae going around there. And these actually were collected probably in the past week and a half. So they've been growing, and here they are. So a lot of kids may think they're tadpoles, but they're not. They eventually will grow wings, and only the females will bite us for blood.
I actually, speaking about eggs, I actually have an egg raft that I collected from a gutter earlier, and I have it here in a sample cup. If I could show you guys.
Oh, cool! Yeah, absolutely.
It's still intact. Can you see that right above right here?
Oh yeah. To the untrained eye, that would probably look like a piece of trash or like a little piece of wood on the water floating around.
Yep, right here.
Yeah, that's how tiny. And then Hendrix, how many eggs you think is in that egg raft, roughly?
About 100 to 150 eggs, depending on the mosquito and how much blood they got from you.
That's right. Well, if they're at Christian's party, definitely a lot of mosquito eggs there.
Yes,
Yeah.
they were having a ball.
And so we have the eggs, and they go through the larvae stage, then pupa, then finally the adult. And that process takes just 7 days. It could be a little longer or a little shorter depending on the weather and other factors. But generally speaking, the life cycle takes about a week to complete. So if you were to see that egg raft that Hendrix was showing us, and then now we look at the pupae and the larvae, these guys are going to complete their life cycle very quickly, which is why it's very important that we act fast. Now, if you're just joining us, this is the Bite Back Tour in the city of El Monte. We just talked about Aedes mosquitoes and how they are just aggressive biters. We just talked about their life cycle, how they can go from egg to adult in a week. So what about what we're doing? A lot of times residents by now would ask, well, what are you guys doing about it? We're getting bit. There's clearly a potential for an outbreak. And we're actually quite lucky to have our special guests on from our two different departments, surveillance and operations. And so let's talk about what we do to actually monitor for these diseases and monitor these mosquitoes. I know, Jung, you are out in the field there, and you are one of the many people who set up mosquito traps. You want to talk about these traps you set up out there?
Yeah. So I work in the surveillance department, and a big part of our jobs is to set up mosquito traps like these all across the district. So what that does is it gives us a good idea of how big the mosquito populations are in each city. And we also send the mosquitoes that we catch off to be tested for diseases like West Nile virus.
Very cool. And these, how does this particular trap work?
So this one is called a gravid trap. And it's called that because it's meant to try to attract gravid mosquitoes, which are just the mosquitoes who are ready to lay eggs. So those mosquitoes are looking for water in there to lay their eggs. But once they fly under this tube here, it goes inside this toolbox. So there's a fan that's here, and it draws the air from under the tube up and out of the toolbox. But then the mosquitoes get trapped in this box here. So they can't fly out because of the air is sucking the opposite way. So we just leave this overnight. And then we come back in the morning just to check on them, and then we just grab the box out and it would be full of mosquitoes, but I just set this one up. And that's how we collect gravid mosquitoes across the district.
And I understand that you guys use different kinds of traps, and this is just one of the more popular ones to use, right?
Yes.
So
we have one that's,
oh, go ahead.
we have one that's more suited for 80s, but it's not quite the time yet. We're waiting for the weather to get a little warmer.
And what's the most amount of mosquitoes you've ever caught in a trap?
For me, I would say around 800 in one box.
Wow, and that's overnight?
Overnight.
Wow.
We had a crazy night, and I think one person caught over 1,000.
Wow.
Just night.
How's that for a memorable moment, right?
Yeah.
Jung, how do you decide what kind of trap you're going to place? Is there a different purpose for each one?
So we usually look at historical data to see what kinds of mosquitoes we've caught in that area before. And then we try to focus on them by choosing which traps. So this one would be for the gravid females for QX. And then we have other types of traps that for 80s called BD traps.
Very cool. If you're just joining us, this is the Bite Back Tour in the city of Monte. We are talking about 80s mosquitoes, those black and white pesky biters, how they are a threat to us. And now we're talking about how we're responding and reacting and also maintaining a vigilant watch on these mosquitoes out there and the diseases they spread. So Jung just showed us a trap that she was using, and this is another photo Ali is sharing on the stuff they do. So they collect the traps as you see in this photo and what you saw Jung talk about, and then to take it back into the lab to identify and send out certain some samples for testing. Now, this all produces data. And because we are a public health agency, we use a lot of data to drive our decisions of where we go. Hendrix, you work in operations. You're definitely more hands-on with the data than say I am. So how do you use the trap data to guide you?
Well, once Jung collects the data and they give it to us, we're able to find out where they were coming from. So if she traps in a certain area, we go to the point sites, is what we call them, to see where they might be coming from. And in that, also looking at those sites, we might find a new site in the area, and then we add that to our database.
Now, if you're just joining us, this is the Bite Back Tour. You're probably watching us on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop a comment in there. We are monitoring for any comments or questions you may have. So now that you know about what we do out in the field in the surveillance and operations team, let's talk about what we do for students. We have another special guest with us here today, and that's Christian from our EcoHealth program. Christian, do you want to talk a little bit about what is offered to our students, since we know students are wonderful at shaming their parents about what they should and shouldn't do. So take it away, Christian.
Yes, we love students. They're really good at saying things that parents sometimes don't want to hear, right? So for us, we have multiple programs. Carol Ann, my colleague, and I, we go out to schools and we provide education to students and teachers about how they could help us become agents of change and prevent mosquitoes from being in our neighborhoods. So we have our classroom program. And so we have what's called MIA, so the Mosquito Intelligence Academy. And so that's a K-6 program where we provide NGSS aligned mosquito education and presentations to students. And we also have a program for middle and high school students as well. So we can go to schools and provide K-12 free education to K-12 students. We also have our citizen science programs. And so those, we have two. So we have our VIP, the Vector Inspector program. And with that one, we have students go into their homes and collect some water samples. So we give them a cup and a pipette. And so they go collect samples, and we want them to identify potential mosquito habitats, right? Once they have the samples. Then they send them back to us in a little kit like this. And then we are able to analyze whatever water they have and find out what kind of critters are living in there. And hopefully we don't have to be the bearer of bad news to let them know that they are growing mosquitoes in their backyards. We also have grid, and Ali, if you could pull that slide up. So that's Operation Mosquito Grid, which is our growth reduction and increased detection. Oh, the previous picture, yeah. So you can see the cup, the black cup at the top. So what we do is we have students clear their yards of any potential sources, and then they set a lure, which is that black cup right there, to attract and lure the female mosquitoes to lay their eggs in there. And so then once they set it out for about a week, and then they take out that piece of paper that's inside and send that to us. And we're able to analyze whether Aedes mosquito eggs are actually growing in there. And then we'll let them know. So that's what we do. And what's really exciting is we actually have a vector inspector of the year. Oh, there you go. Little award that students can get for being highly engaged in our program. So we've given out a couple of these. And so for teachers, if you're interested, please sign up your students. They can become Vector Inspectors of the Year, and they can actually sign up on our website. So our website is, you can find all of our programs. They're all free, and teachers, we will do all of the heavy lifting. So just sign up and we can, we'll take over your classroom and do everything that we need to do to make a fun and engaging experience for your students. And this website is vectoreducation.org. And if you're not a teacher, please, just share this with your teacher friends or family members, right? That could actually have this implemented in their classrooms.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Christian. And for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Bite Back Tour in the city of El Monte. My name is Levy's son. Christian, our education specialist, just spoke about our EcoHealth program and the citizen science programs that you can sign up for. What was that URL again, Christian?
It's vectoreducation.org.
All right, vectoreducation.org. It's a free program for all students in our district. And we were just talking about how Aedes mosquitoes are a threat to our way of life and are a threat to our outdoor fun. So using the Citizen Science Project, you can use it to better understand these threats in your own backyard, especially if you're a student. We also just talked with Jung and Hendricks, each of them talking about what they do out in the field regarding trapping for mosquitoes and then inspecting and treating for them if necessary. So let's go ahead and round it out to the point where what residents can do. We have about a couple minutes left before we do need to end this episode, but this is a really important one of how we can include other people in this solution for mosquito control. And if you're watching live, feel free to include any comments or questions. We'll be sure to, I'm monitoring it right now so we can answer them as they come. But some of the things that residents can do, an easy one here that was mentioned by our trustee Velasco, is wear insect repellent. Ali, you want to go ahead and chat about the 4 ingredients and we can dive deeper into the topic there?
Sure. All right, everyone. So I'm just going to share a photo of a woman putting on mosquito repellent. And when you're outside, even if it's just going down to the mailbox or depending whatever activity you're doing outside, you make sure you want to put mosquito repellent on. Any ingredient is fine so long as it's one of these 4: DEET, picaridin, oil of lemon eucalyptus, or IR 3535. And the way you want to apply it is you want to apply it to exposed skin. Don't overdo it, but just read the label on the back of the repellent bottle, and then you just rub it in like you would sunscreen and also reapply.
Oh yeah, speaking of sunscreen, what do they put on first? Should people put on sunscreen first or repellent?
They should put on sunscreen first and then repellent. You want repellent to be your outer layer.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And we don't have much time, but I do want to just point out that those bracelets, candles, fans, those sonic apps that you download on your phone, unfortunately, there's not enough research to show that they work effectively. These Aedes mosquitoes are aggressive biters, And for many people who use those candles and fans, they're usually placed well above the waist. And if there's any breeze that comes through, it's taking that effectiveness far, far away from you. So the best repellent is the one that you're going to use directly on your skin. Second thing that people can do is get rid of that dense vegetation. Christian, you had mentioned that buffet you gave, or you and your family gave to the mosquitoes, and it turns out that there was a lot of dense vegetation. And dense vegetation isn't a place where mosquitoes grow, it's actually where they rest. Mosquitoes are very terrible at regulating their body temperatures. Like me, they hate the heat, so they like to go for places that is nice and cool and possibly even humid. And unfortunately, a lot of our landscaping in El Monte and throughout Southern California has a lot of non-native plants and a lot of plants that grow like ivy. And these kind of vegetation invite mosquitoes to cool off and stay safe until they sense someone walking nearby, or if you're at Christian's party back when they didn't
Not
know
all
about
parties
it.
are like that.
Yeah.
I hope not for your.
No
A past
longer.
party. I'm not saying that a future party. So if you do want to get bit, yeah, go to Christian's party.
Great, thanks, Levy.
You're welcome. Just be sure to trim that back. Make sure there's airflow that will dry out the underside of the leaves. If you have ivy, get rid of it if you can. And if you have bromeliads, like those tropical plants that you see with the center cups, those hold water and those can invite mosquitoes.
Chiming in on what Levy was talking about the candles and the bracelets and all that, wearing that mosquito repellent makes you that item that the mosquito doesn't want to land on. So you become the bracelet, you become the candle when you put on repellent. It's not going to land on you. It's going to find somebody else who's not wearing anything.
Ooh, I like that. Don't use a candle, be the candle.
Exactly.
It's a good campaign. We should use it.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, this is the Bite Back Tour. We're nearing the end here. One last thing for everyone to know, please join our Bite Back program. It's a free program. A lot of residents have asked us, we know we can do more. We want to rally our neighbors. What else can we do? Well, go to bitebackchampion.org to sign up, or you can call us at 626-814-9466. And you can join our program, and we will work with you and your neighborhood on making it more bite-free. We can't get rid of 100% of mosquitoes in our city. That's just part of our ecosystem, how we are here. But we can definitely reduce the numbers down so that you can enjoy your outdoor space. So let's go into sign-offs here. I'm going to let our field folks go. Hendrix, any last parting words for folks?
That's it. Tip and toss, wear repellent, and stay mosquito-free. You guys have a good day.
Love it. And Jung, any last words for our folks watching in El Monte?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone to please protect yourself with repellent, because even though it's just the start of the mosquito season, we are seeing those numbers start to climb up.
Thank you for that. And to you, Christian?
Happy Earth Day, everyone. And one way to celebrate the Earth, right, is to learn more about it. So feel free to sign up for our on vectoreducation.org to get some more education.
Love it. And anything from you, Allie?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone to ditch the dense vegetation and cut back what covers.
Very cool. Thank you. And then for me, Levy's son, just want to thank you all for joining us. We're back again next week. Same day, Thursday, same time, 11 a.m. So tune in live anywhere on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We are working on Instagram, but Instagram has their own setup behind the scenes that we're working on. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us on SGVMosquito.org. Stay healthy, stay bite-free, and we'll see you later. Thank you all.